Good morning. For years, many of us have operated under a quiet, limiting assumption. We've been told, and perhaps we've come to believe, that our brains are like sophisticated computers, pre-wired and programmed in our youth, destined to slowly but surely gather dust as the years go by. That the sharpness of our 20s is the peak, and everything after is just a long, polite decline. I'm here to tell you that assumption is not just wrong, it's one of the most costly pieces of conventional wisdom you could ever buy into. The truth is far more remarkable. Your brain possesses a profound, built-in talent for change that lasts your entire life. Scientists have a wonderful word for it: neuroplasticity. Now, that might sound like technical jargon, but it's the most important business concept you'll hear today. It means your brain is not a static machine, but a living, adapting ecosystem. Every single day, based on what you do, what you think, and what you focus on, your brain is physically rewiring itself. It's pruning connections you don't use, and, critically, it's weaving new ones for the skills and knowledge you are actively cultivating. Think about it this way. For a long time, even the experts believed the brain's hardware was fixed by adulthood. The story was, you're born with all the brain cells you'll ever have, and you spend the rest of your life losing them. Well, that's like saying a great company is only the factory it built in 1965, and it can never build a new wing, install a new production line, or innovate its processes. We know in business that's nonsense. The best companies are agile. They adapt to new markets. They retrain their personnel. They restructure to seize new opportunities. Your brain, ladies and gentlemen, is the ultimate agile enterprise. It is constantly restructuring. This isn't just a minor adjustment. It's a fundamental re-engineering. When you sincerely struggle to learn a new language, a musical instrument, or a complex piece of technology, you aren't just filling up a storage tank. You are literally constructing new neural pathways. You are sending a direct order to your brain's infrastructure department. This is important. Build a road here. And it listens. It assigns resources. It gets to work. This capability doesn't retire when you turn 50, 60, or 70. The construction crews are always on call. The pace of building might be different than when you were 10, and your whole job was to learn, but the authority to build, the very blueprint for growth, remains entirely in your hands. This changes everything. It means the narrative isn't one of passive loss, but of active management. You are not the caretaker of a fading estate. You are the CEO of the most dynamic organization on earth. The question shifts from, how much am I losing, to the far more powerful and productive question, what am I choosing to build today? The real investment, then, isn't in chasing the next fleeting trend, but in the appreciating asset between your ears, an asset that compounds with intelligent, consistent deposits of challenge and curiosity. The most valuable capital you will ever manage is your own attention, because that is what directs the construction crews of your mind. Now, with that understanding of your brain's inherent adaptability, a very practical question arises: how do we run this enterprise? If our mental organization is built to adapt, how do we ensure it adapts in the right direction? You've all heard the old adage, use it or lose it, and there's a core truth to that. A neural pathway that sits idle, that never gets any traffic, will eventually be pruned away. The brain is a remarkable economizer. It doesn't waste resources maintaining a back road that nobody travels. So yes, if you stop speaking a language, that vocabulary fades. If you stop practicing a skill, the edges get dull. But focusing solely on that phrase sells the entire operation short. It frames the entire endeavor as a defensive game, a battle against inevitable decay. It's like saying the only goal of a business is to avoid bankruptcy. That's a terribly uninspiring mission. The far more powerful and more accurate principle is this: use it and improve it. Every single time you engage in deep, focused effort to learn something new or master a finer point of something you already know, you are doing more than just preventing a loss. You are initiating a capital improvement project. You are not merely keeping the old factory open, you are laying down new fiber, optic cable, you're upgrading the machinery, you're training your team on a more efficient process. That focused effort sends a surge of activity down a specific neural network, and your brain's response is to fortify that very pathway. It thickens the insulation around the wires, called myelin, which makes the signal travel faster and cleaner. It strengthens the synaptic connections, making the communication between neurons more efficient. You are not just using a road, you are paving it, widening it, and putting up streetlights. This is where the concept of cognitive reserve comes in. Think of it as your brain's rainy day fund, its buffer against future challenges. By consistently engaging in challenging mental activity, by deliberately choosing the harder problem, by picking up the book on an unfamiliar subject, by trying your hand at a new skill, even if you're initially terrible at it, you are making deposits into this reserve. You are building a denser, more interconnected, more resilient network. A well-traveled, well-maintained network of roads can find multiple detours if one route is blocked. A brain with a rich cognitive reserve has more pathways, more connections, more ways to solve a problem. It doesn't just resist wear, it becomes more capable. This turns the entire model of aging from one of depletion to one of potential accumulation. The goal isn't to frantically run on a treadmill to avoid falling off. The goal is to choose the terrain you want to explore, and then build the muscle and the maps to traverse it beautifully. The use it part isn't a chore to prevent loss, it's the active, joyful process of construction. And the prove it is the compound interest that effort pays. You are not fighting to stay where you are building the capacity to go somewhere new. The bottom line is this: the most valuable assets in your mind are not the ones you inherited, but the ones you are actively, deliberately building today. Now, this idea of continuous building leads to a very important consideration. If we're always focused on building new things, are we neglecting the value of what we've already built? There's a tendency, especially in a world obsessed with the new and the nimble, to underestimate the immense power of an experienced system. So let's be clear, while a young brain might be a dazzling startup, incredibly fast at coding new software and absorbing raw data, a mature brain is the seasoned, long-term enterprise. And any intelligent investor knows there's a profound difference between raw speed and seasoned judgment. This is where the unique, irreplaceable strength of the experienced mind comes into play. We've spent decades accumulating not just information, but patterns. We've seen economic cycles, we've watched management fads come and go, we've navigated personal and professional challenges that no textbook could ever capture. This massive library of lived experience isn't just stored data, it's an integrated operating system. It allows the mature brain to practice something the young brain simply cannot: deep pattern recognition and efficient problem solving. A young analyst might see 100 discrete data points. An experienced one sees the story those points are telling because she's read that genre before. This isn't about being slow, it's about being selective. The brain becomes a master of efficiency. It learns to ignore the distracting noise and go straight to the signal. It uses less energy to arrive at a more nuanced conclusion because it's not building the road from scratch. It's consulting a vast atlas of roads already traveled. Scientists call this crystallized intelligency, the wealth of knowledge, facts, and expertise you've accumulated over a lifetime. And unlike the more fluid processing speed of youth, this treasure trove tends to increase and deepen with time, right into our later decades. Furthermore, this experienced system excels in emotional regulation and integrative thinking. The prefrontal cortex, the CEO of the brain, responsible for judgment and decision-making, has, ideally, learned to manage the emotional impulses of the amygdala, the alarm system. This means reactions are less often knee-jerk and more often considered. Decisions are less about isolated facts and more about seeing how dozens of variables connect into a coherent whole. It's the difference between looking at the price tag of a single stock and understanding the entire philosophy and long-term potential of the business behind it. This is the great trade-off, and it is a spectacularly good one if you know how to leverage it. You are trading some raw processing speed for a formidable, well-calibrated judgment engine. You are trading the ability to learn a language with a perfect accent for the profound ability to understand human nature, to gauge character, to spot a durable competitive advantage that others miss in their rush. This isn't a consolation prize for aging, it's the cumulative dividend of a lifetime of thoughtful engagement. The young brain is a sprinter. The mature brain is a strategist, reading the entire field, conserving energy for the decisive move, and drawing on a deep well of experience to know exactly what that move should be. So, do not ever mistake experience for obsolete machinery. It is, in fact, your most sophisticated and valuable proprietary technology. Now, all this talk of building new roads and upgrading our internal systems naturally leads to the next logical question. Who is the chief engineer in charge of this project? If we accept that we are running a dynamic, adaptable enterprise, we must also accept that we are responsible for its operating environment. We cannot expect peak performance from any organization, be it a company or a mind, if we neglect its fundamental infrastructure. You wouldn't run a factory without electricity, clean air, or maintenance for the machinery, and yet we often try to run our brains on poor fuel, with inadequate downtime and in a state of constant, corrosive stress. This is poor management of your most critical asset. The magnificent truth is that your daily lifestyle is not separate from your brain's performance. It is the direct levers of control. You are not a passive passenger in this process. You are the chairman, the CEO, and the head of facilities, all in one. And the decisions you make about seemingly mundane things, how you move your body, how you rest, what you put into your system, and how you manage pressure are not just about general health. They are specific, actionable neurochemical strategies. Let's start with the single most powerful upgrade you can make: physical exercise. When you get your heart rate up, you are doing far more than helping your waistline. You are quite literally investing in your brain's growth fund. You increase blood flow, delivering more oxygen and vital nutrients to your neural networks. More importantly, you trigger the release of a substance called brain derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF. Think of BDNF as fertilizer for the brain. It encourages the growth of new neurons and strengthens the connections between them. It is the direct biochemical signal for growth that makes all that neuroplasticity we discussed possible. A brisk walk, then, isn't just exercise, it's a capital allocation to your brain's R&D department. Then there's the silent partner in cognitive performance, sleep. This is not downtime. This is critical active consolidation time. While you sleep, your brain is not switched off. It's in a state of intense activity, sorting through the day's experiences, moving important information from short-term holding into long-term storage, and clearing out metabolic waste that can gum up the works. Skimping on sleep is like firing your entire night, shift maintenance and janitorial crew, and expecting the factory to run smoothly in the morning. It won't. The machinery will be sluggish and error-prone. And we must consider the environment we create. Chronic stress floods the system with cortisol, a hormone that, in sustained high doses, is toxic to the very hippocampal neurons crucial for memory and learning. It's like running a factory under a constant, low-grade chemical leak. It corrodes the equipment. Managing stress through perspective, through simple practices like focused breathing, or through the powerful buffer of strong social connections, isn't just feeling better. It is a direct defensive strategy for preserving your cognitive capital. Social connection itself acts as a complex, stimulating workout for the brain, engaging our emotional and empathic circuits in a way that solitary puzzles cannot. So, view these not as chores on a wellness checklist, but as the essential boardroom decisions for your mental corporation. Every meal is a board meeting on fuel supply. Every night's sleep is a strategic planning and cleanup session. Every walk is a capital investment in infrastructure. You are not just living, you are actively engineering the platform upon which your wisdom and growth are built. Now, with our operating environment in good order, we must turn to the most critical strategic decision. What do we actually build? It's one thing to have a factory in prime condition, humming with power and excellent maintenance. It's another thing entirely to decide what you will manufacture there. You can keep producing the same reliable widget year after year, and the factory will perform adequately. But that is not how you create value, and it is certainly not how you trigger growth. For that, you need a new product line. You need to venture into uncharted territory. In the language of your brain, you need challenge and novelty. This is a subtle but vital point. Many people think that keeping their brain active is enough. Doing the daily crossword, playing familiar card games, following the same comfortable routines. These are like running quality control on your existing widgets. It's fine maintenance work. It may help keep the machinery from rusting shut, but it does not order the construction of new machinery. The signal for true growth, for genuine neuroplastic restructuring, is not mere activity. It is focused struggle. It is the conscious, deliberate choice to engage with something you are not good at yet. When you decide to learn to play the violin at 60, or to grapple with a new language, or to master a complex piece of software, you are not just passing time. You are sending a crisis, a wonderful, productive crisis, to the executive suite of your brain. You are presenting it with a problem its existing maps cannot solve. In that moment of sincere confusion and effort, your brain has no choice but to adapt. It must scout new territory, form new connections, and establish new communication lines. The feeling of frustration, of mental strain, is not a sign that you're failing. It is the physical sensation of construction. It is the sound of new neural pathways being cleared. This is why comfort is the enemy of a powerful brain at any age. Staying in the realm of what you already know is like a company that only ever sells to its existing customers. It may be a stable business for a while, but it has no future. It is not expanding its market. Novelty is the catalyst. When you engage with something truly new, you force different, previously disconnected regions of your brain to start talking to each other. The visual cortex might have to consult with the motor cortex in a new way. The language centers might have to form an alliance with areas responsible for logical reasoning. This cross-departmental collaboration is where innovation happens, both in a company and in your mind. The key is the word deliberate. It must be effortful. It must demand your full attention. Skimming an article on a new topic is not the same as sitting down and trying to write a summary of it in your own words. Watching a documentary is not the same as then trying to explain its central thesis to a friend. The struggle to synthesize, to articulate, to perform, that is the productive struggle that builds cognitive muscle. So, you must become a deliberate seeker of productive difficulty. It is the strategic investment that pays the highest cognitive dividends. You are not just learning a thing, you are upgrading the very system that learns. The most valuable projects are the ones that feel just beyond your current reach, because that is where growth is waiting for your signal to begin. All of this brings us to the most powerful, and often the most overlooked, piece of the entire enterprise. We've talked about the brain's inherent capacity, its unique strengths, the environment it needs, and the kind of work that makes it grow. But none of that matters if the chairman of the board doesn't believe in the company's fundamental potential. In the end, the foundational circuit for everything we've discussed is your mindset. For decades, we've been sold a story about the brain that is not just incomplete, it's actively limiting. We're told, often subtly, that learning is for the young, that creativity has an expiration date, and that the older mind is a fading light. These are cultural neuromyths, and they are more than just wrong ideas. They become self-fulfilling prophecies. If you believe your cognitive destiny is a long, slow decline, you will unconsciously make decisions that ensure that outcome. Why would you try to build a new wing on a factory you believe is condemned? You wouldn't. You'd just run down the inventory until the lights go out. This is the tyranny of a fixed mindset. It assumes our qualities are carved in stone. But the science of neuroplasticity argues for a growth mindset, the core belief that your abilities can be developed through dedication and effort. This isn't just positive thinking. It is the essential software that runs all the other hardware we've talked about. Believing I can learn this or I can get better at this isn't a platitude. It is the executive order that authorizes the investment. It opens the mental treasury and says, allocate the resources, begin the construction, think of the power of that shift. When faced with a difficult new challenge, the person with a fixed mindset hears a voice that says, I'm not good at this. I'm too old for this. This proves I'm slipping. That voice triggers a cascade of stress, avoidance, and retreat. The neural pathways of fear and resignation get stronger. The person with a growth mindset hears a different voice. It says, this is hard. That means it's valuable. My brain is stretching right now. That belief triggers curiosity, engagement, and persistence. It activates the very networks of attention and problem solving that lead to growth. Your belief literally changes your brain's chemical and electrical response to challenge. Your mindset is the ultimate filter through which every experience passes. It determines whether a setback is a permanent verdict or a temporary piece of data to learn from. It decides whether you see the unfamiliar as a threat or an opportunity. This is not a small thing. This is the bedrock of all intelligent investing, whether in markets or in yourself. You must believe in the long-term potential of the asset you are working with. So, the most important investment you will ever make is not in a specific stock or a new hobby. It is in cultivating this foundational belief. Question the old stories. Challenge the assumptions about what is possible at your age. Every time you choose to engage, to struggle, to learn, you are not just building a skill, you are reinforcing the most critical belief of all, that your brain's capacity is not a fixed inheritance, but a living enterprise under your direct and purposeful management. Therefore, the final piece of architecture is the one you build in the space of your own expectations. Shape that, and you have authorized a lifetime of growth.